Trump administration so far winning its fight in court to give Doge full access to government agencies, while in New York, a Democratic mayor is being saved from a corruption case after the Trump-appointed DOJ leadership demanded the case be dropped. Joining me now, CNN political commentators Scott Jennings and Bakari Sellers. All right, so let's go to this case that was in federal court. Judge Tanya declined to block Musk and his team from gaining access to data at 7 government agencies after democratically led states sued to stop Doge. This is the same judge that presided over the January 6th election subversion case against Donald Trump, when Trump famously described her as the most evil person. Scott, that's still the case for Donald Trump after this decision?
Well, first of all, it's a good decision. It's amazing to me that Donald Trump has to go to court to fight off attempts to keep the duly elected president and his appointees from having access to the federal government. I mean, this is, after all, the people that we elected to run the country, and they have to go into court and fight to run the country. I mean, it sounds crazy. So I think it was the only decision she could make, because it's patently ridiculous when Democrat attorneys general go to partisan judges, or any judges for that matter, and try to stop the duly elected government from operating. That's number one. Number two, this effort is nothing more than an attempt to control the federal bureaucracy and restore some political oversight to the federal government. That is all they are trying to do. So ultimately, I think people are happy with it, and I think they're finding some things that need to be uncovered. And the more that they're transparent about that, and the more they put that information out to the American people, the more popular it's going to become.
But do you still think he thinks she's the most evil person?
I don't know. I mean, how can you make it? I mean, I don't know what kind of person she is. I never met her, and I try not to cast aspersions on people I don't know. But I know this: how can you make any other decision than the one that she made? He's the president. These are his appointees going into the federal agencies that they were elected to run. So what does it matter what he said as a matter of a political statement before, as long as the result here is they get to run the federal government just like the people asked for?
Bakari, her decision, another blow to Democrats trying to stop the way that Doge is doing business. But Democrats have been in the past for a long time saying that the federal government is too bloated. What do you make of what's happening here?
No, I mean, I think that the actions that you saw by these Democratic attorneys generals were the simple fact that you don't have any oversight with these employees of Doge, that you don't have the guardrails that are normally in place when you have government employees. Take, for example, we don't have any financial disclosures to talk about the conflict of interest of someone like Elon Musk, who is going in and just assembling federal agencies that either, one, he has a vested interest in, a financial interest in, or two, were investigating him. And so when you look at those clear conflicts and not having financial disclosures, it then poses the next question, which is, what is he doing with the information he ascertains? What is he doing with the data that he gets? Is he using it for his own personal needs or good? I mean, we don't have those answers because they don't have those disclosures. We don't know the conflicts, and we don't have the oversight. Judge Chutkan, and I chuckled a little bit over here when Scott stumbled over partisan judges. No one's fishing for partisan judges. She's an amazing jurist. She's one of the brightest jurists we have on any bench in America. And so for Trump to cast aspersions on her, not my friend Scott, but for Trump to do so simply because she was ruling over his criminal proceeding, she is actually feeding them out of the same spoon of justice. She said and found, like Scott said, that there was no legal ground for this impediment to go forward. But for Trump to call her names when she was giving him justice in the criminal proceedings, not fair. The second thing I have to point out really quickly, Sarah, is this: Doge is incompetent. Whether or not you're talking about firing individuals who are over our nuclear arsenal, or firing those regulators who are in charge of controlling the avian bird flu, we've seen nothing but incompetence from Doge. And so while the judge may not be able to stop them, the utter incompetence of these 20-somethings running around in federal government with no experience, firing people they should not, the American people will stop them eventually.
All right. Zelenskyy says Donald Trump is unfortunately living in, and these are his words, a disinformation space, and Trump is using Russian talking points, blaming Ukraine for starting the war with Russia when it was Russia that invaded Ukraine unprovoked. Scott, the president of Ukraine is basically saying the president of the United States doesn't know what the truth is. It's quite a statement. What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think what everybody wants is the war to end, and for the killing to end, and for us to have some peace in Europe. That's number one. Number two, I do think Ukraine needs to be at the table for whatever peace talks occur. I think that's vital. And I heard Secretary of Defense Hegseth say that the end goal for the United States is for Ukraine to be free and prosperous. I take him at his word, and for that to be the case, they have to be at the table. Number three, I agree with you. Russia did invade Ukraine here, and they are, ultimately on the geopolitical stage, they're the bad guy, and I think we should all understand that. So as this unfolds, I'm not going to prejudge the outcome here, but I do also take Donald Trump and his people at their word, which is that they've been handed this mess. The war didn't start on their watch, but they would like for it to end on their watch because they think a peaceful solution to this and a peaceful Europe is better for the world at large. It's better for all of our economies. It's better for our security. And if they can get there ultimately in a way that allows Ukraine to remain free and prosperous, that's the statement of the administration, I think that'll be a great thing.
Bakari, what do you make of this? These comments by Zelenskyy are pretty stark.
Yeah, I mean, I question the leadership we have when you have Pete Hegseth, who goes out there in his first foray into the world stage and makes one of the biggest gaffes we've seen of any defense secretary by simply coming out and saying that Ukraine won't have a spot in NATO. That's not on the table even prior to discussions are being had. I think even Republicans have castigated Hegseth for that that just elementary error that he made. And so it shakes our faith. I do agree with Scott on one, Russia is definitely the aggressor here. They are the bad guy on the world stage. I agree with Scott on two, Ukraine has to be at the table. You can't have discussions without that. But three, I do question the motives. I question the experience. I question the intellect of Donald Trump and his team, because you can't go out here and simply give Russia the territory they want. You can't prevent Ukraine from joining NATO and allow Russia to do nothing. So wait and see. We'll see what happens.
We have a little bit of an agreement, which is a shocker on this Wednesday. Scott Jennings, Bakari Sellers, thank you both.
We agree before
so
lunchtime, Sarah. We agree before lunch.
Excellent. I like it. I like a little agreement. It's nice. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.